Okay, hi. So I have previously focused on my vegetables and greenhouse, but that's not for today. I've done that. So I'm going down this other end here of my garden, and I'm going to be looking and introducing you today to this guy. This is my tortoise. Here he comes. Norsley, chomping away on some weeds just there, and this is where he lives. So gone are the days of the £5 almost disposable tortoise that people used to get in the good old days. Tortoises are now relatively expensive, and you have to have some degree of knowledge in order to care for them in a significantly good way. They don't naturally live in this country, and so you have to go some way to provide the right conditions for them. Norsley is, as is his name, Norsley is an imported tortoise. They're naturally from southern Europe, but you can't now just go and catch them in the wild and import them into Britain in large numbers, making them cheap as they used to be. They are bred in the UK, and as a result there is more expense associated with them. So their lineage goes back 200 million years. This is a Mediterranean tortoise. This one is an Eastern Hermann's tortoise. Now, there has been some considerable thought and process gone into the way in which I've set up the enclosure here, with it being south facing. This is a south facing wall, with the sun coming up over the greenhouse in the morning over there, and then rising up and going through this arc and down over there behind those trees into the evening. Now in the winter time the arc is lower, but in the summer it comes much higher in the sky over the top here. The rocks that are in there, like these ones, quite thick, big rock, dark rocks. The idea being that they absorb the heat through the day and then are able to re-radiate that back out. And everything here really is set up to be kind of warmer and more Mediterranean than it would otherwise be. We've got some of the smells as well. Perhaps this is the rosemary. The smells of the Mediterranean, and some cacti in the background for added effect there. They're in pots. They are quite winter hardy actually, but they don't like too much moisture. But the wall gives extra warmth as well. There's an aloe in the corner over there as well. That's just flowering actually. It's quite nice. And also this old window pane creates a little greenhouse in there. And there's a heat bulb and UVB provided inside his little hutch there, that he goes in and out of as required. But sometimes the bulb is useful in the morning just to get him going when the sun hasn't come up yet, because being a reptile, of course, they require heat from outside, unlike a mammal. Of course, as I say, I've got electricity here. In the Mediterranean, where he comes from, there would be, or his ancestors came from, there'll be obviously a lot more hours of sunshine, a lot more intense sunlight, being we are 50 degrees or so north of the equator here, whereas Bulgaria, Greece, is about 40 degrees north of the equator. So there is a significant difference there in that. So in terms of diet, the pellets you can buy from the pet shop, they're kind of frowned upon, probably not providing what is required. So I feed Norsley on various weeds. I've got a fair idea now, having owned him for a little while, of what it is that you should be feeding a tortoise in terms of these weeds, but you can get various apps that I used to rely on quite heavily in order to tell me which were safe and which weren't quite so safe. There's no grass here as well, be another point I'd make. There's no grass growing. They shouldn't spend too much time walking across grass because it retains moisture well, and therefore can give them kind of shell rot, because they are used to living in more of an arid environment with soil that doesn't hold on to moisture very well at all. So I suppose the only other thing to say is about hibernation. So being a Mediterranean tortoise, Norsley can and perhaps should hibernate, and I do hibernate him. You don't have to though. A Mediterranean tortoise can be kept inside through the winter. They're not frost hardy. They really do need to be kept away from frost. Any sign of frost can affect their extremities, and so we get issues with blindness and legs being damaged quite easily. But I do hibernate this tortoise. Some tortoises you shouldn't hibernate. Some tortoises, the desert ones and the rainforest ones, aren't suited to it and can't hibernate and will die if you try to hibernate them. But the techniques for a Mediterranean tortoise, the classic technique of a box in the garage, is relatively reliable. They can just dig down into the soil and actually probably do quite well through the winter. The risk though is that you lose them, or there would be rodents that might attack them. Some people, in order to make sure they don't, if you like, lose their tortoise, they dig a bin down into the ground and then let the tortoise hibernate in the bin. But yeah, waterlogging can be an issue there. But the most reliable, in terms of conditions, system which I use, is the fridge method, which essentially means putting the tortoise in the fridge for a couple of months, maybe up to 3 months, through the winter. Which sounds quite shocking, but it means that I can be quite in control of the conditions. I can be in control of the temperature between about 5 and 10 degrees, and I can be in control of humidity levels, and I can regulate the atmosphere quite well, making sure there's enough oxygen and things. So that is what I do. And that's some of the choices I make. There probably are plenty of other things I could talk about in terms of the care of this tortoise, who I've had for 6 years or so. But maybe that's for another day. Thanks very much. Say bye-bye.